Now before we start this video, in February I will be going to Sweden to take a look at the Switch with Commonwealth Realm and Zelda. Help me get there by leaving a donation, link is in the description. I have to do it this way because it's very expensive. I will do full coverage and answer all your questions on the system, and if I can, I will even do a live stream there so I can show it off. Thanks for listening. Now let's get to the actual subject. In all our adventures through Hyrule, we have seen a lot of different people and especially different races. Like the mighty and strong Gorons, smart and keen Zoras, and the sinister Gerudos. A lot of these races also make a return in the new Zelda game Breath of the Wild, but what kind of role will they play, and will we see old characters return? Well, let's take a look to see what's possible in this huge game. Now, as we all know, Hyrule is in ruins thanks to Calamity Ganon, and this affected everyone in the game. The humans and Hylians are scattered across the land and the entire kingdom has most likely fallen apart. But what about the new bird people that we can see in the game? What can we expect from them? Well, by the looks of it, they are also scattered around the world, since we see one in the middle of Zonai ruins all on his own. Although I have to mention that Cass is a minstrel who travels Hyrule and sings the legends of the areas he visits, while accompanying himself on accordion. So he isn't really a good example, so let's take a look at another. This one probably plays a big role in the game, since we have seen him multiple times in the trailer. Falco.
Falco, where are you going?
I mean, we don't know his name yet, but he seems to be some sort of leading figure. He has a bow on his back, which is most likely his preferred weapon, and maybe of the entire race, just like tridents for the Zora. Besides this, we haven't seen a lot of them. We don't even know where their base is. Sure, we know that their divine beast is a huge bird, but we could have seen that one coming. But there's one question that a lot of people have. Are these birds the same as the Rito from The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker? This is a race of birds that inhabits Dragon Roost Island, a volcanic island in the middle of the Great Sea. But in the past, this was different, since they are an evolved form of the Zora that have gained the ability to fly. Could this have happened in the world of Breath of the Wild as well? It's certainly possible, but for them to fly they need some help. The Rito were not always creatures of the sky, and the grappling hook is a remnant of those days. They still aren't aerial beings by birth. They need to get their wings from the Sky Spirit Valoo by visiting him and receiving a skill from him. So if the bird people from Breath of the Wild are really some sort of Rito, then they need to get their ability to fly from another powerful being. Overall, it's certainly possible that a part of the Zora turn into Rito-like beings in Breath of the Wild, but it kind of depends on the situation. And we also saw another race that we have seen in the Wind Waker, the Koroks and their leader, the Great Deku Tree. Their main role is defending the Master Sword from evil, since it's positioned in a pedestal in front of their leader. Now the Koroks also have a different role. They are found throughout Hyrule, but are all hidden, and when you find one, you get a Korok seed. And the description of the item even says, if you gather a bunch of them, you never know what may happen. So you probably get some reward if you find all of them. And according to a game guide for Breath of the Wild, the game has, spoiler, 900 Koroks hidden throughout the world. Yes, 900 of those. So this is their main role next to guarding the Master Sword, which is a huge plot point. Now also the Zora made a return in this game, but they're a bit different compared to the previous games. They are huge! As you can see in the trailer, this one looks twice as big as Link. Besides this, their heads can be different in terms of shape, and they look more powerful and suited for combat than ever. Now we also see other Zoras in this shot. In the background we most likely see the advisor of the king, and on the right the king himself. You can clearly see that the king will make a return. His clothing looks like that of royalty, he is fat and huge just like the version in Ocarina of Time, and he is sitting in a grand hall. Now that I mention it, is this place Zora's domain? Is it returning in Breath of the Wild? Well, by the looks of it, they at least have a good base of operation, which could be Zora's domain, but for now, we can't really be sure. By the looks of it, they live in one of the colder regions in the game, since you can see a pine tree in the background. Now besides these characters, a girl Zora was also shown, but I will get back to that later in the video. Also, the Gorons made a return in this game, but there's only one of them in the trailer, and by the looks of it, he is their leader. He seems to have magical powers, which is new for the Gorons, and we don't see any base or city where they reside. so there isn't a lot of information on them, but we can see lava behind him, so they most likely live in the mountains. Now for our last race, the Gerudo. They are, by the looks of it, mostly found in the desert region as expected. They even have a huge city somewhere in the desert, but there's also another place that we can see in the trailer which has a connection with them. The Spirit Temple, which is a sacred temple that we have seen before in Ocarina of Time, and this looks a lot like it. So could this be the actual Spirit Temple? Well, most likely, since it's somewhere far away, so it probably wasn't destroyed, and the Temple of Time also appeared in the game, which is from the same time period. So far, we've only seen one Gerudo, and that's this girl, and by the looks of it, she's gonna play a leading role. This brings me to another point. We can see that Link visits all the races, but why? Well, the races will overall play one huge role. They will help Link get the divine beasts back that we see in the trailer and on the parchment that comes with the collector's edition of the game. These huge mechanical beasts were made by the Sheikah and were used to defend the land and eventually attack Calamity Ganon. But they were eventually corrupted by him just like the Guardians and were used against Link, Zelda and the other inhabitants of Hyrule. And so he won and destroyed the world. But luckily enough, he was eventually sealed away in the castle. So Link's objective is to take back the divine beasts in order to have a chance against Calamity Ganon. The races like the Gerudo, Zora, birds and Gorons will help him with this task. We can even see the Gerudo girl together with Link near something that looks like a temple or divine beast. Together with Link, the races take them back, since originally they all had their own. The camel is for the Gerudo, the bird is for the bird people, the elephant is for the Gorons, and the chameleon for the Zora. This all kind of fits with the creatures they are. Now what about the classic characters? Darunia, Makar, Ruto, Medley? Will we see some of them return? Well, since there's a huge gap in terms of time, at least 100 years since that's when Calamity Ganon attacked, I don't really see it happening. It was already a miracle to see the Great Deku Tree, King Zora and the Old Man return. However, by the looks of it, some similar characters will return in the game, like the Zora girl that I mentioned before. She's in terms of looks very similar to Prince Raleigh from Twilight Princess. He's also a very important character in the game, so I expect this Zora girl to have a huge role as well. But this isn't the only character that's similar to an old one. The Gerudo girl looks a lot like Nabooru, a character from Ocarina of Time. She's the second in command of the Gerudo and is highly respected by the others. So I'm also curious if the one in Breath of the Wild will have a similar role as well. I think she will guide Link through the desert, since you can see them traveling together in the trailer. And the list goes on. For example, the Goron looks a lot like Darunia from Ocarina of Time. But what about the bird people? Well, I'm not really sure. They're the only ones that are very unpredictable in my opinion. The one with the bow looks like an important character to me since they put focus on him in the trailers. But he doesn't look like any other character that we have seen before. And their divine beast flies. So I'm really curious how you need to take that one back. It has also been confirmed that the game has multiple endings, since you can go to the final boss of the game at any point. Maybe the races play a big role in this. It could be that you can completely skip them, and this will create a different kind of ending. Who knows? So overall, the races in Breath of the Wild are probably going to be used in interesting ways, and some of these characters remind us of old ones. Some familiar areas may return, and some of these characters will become companions that help us out. But for now, we will have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Like I said in the beginning of the video, in February I will be checking out the Switch together with Zeltec and Commonwealth Realm in Sweden. Please consider donating by using the link in the description. I would really appreciate it since it's going to be one expensive trip. Thanks for watching everyone, and thanks a lot if you helped me out financially. If you want to watch more videos, click the annotations on the screen right now and consider subscribing. Leave a like and tell me in the comments what you think about this video.